Commissioner Coleman here.
We're muted.
Just unmuted.
All right. Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
Doing well.
All right.
Well done. We're very professional around here.
You know, they say that Gen X, which is the generation I'm from, turned 30 when they were 10 and are still 30 when they're 50.
Oh.
Good morning, everyone. Commissioner Roop has joined.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
All right, looks like everyone is assembled today, and it is 10:15. So we can go ahead and call the agenda to order for today, August 30th, 2023. First off, before we get started, all those that are on the phone, please mute yourself unless you need to speak so as not to disrupt the conversation today. There are 3 tariffs and new orders on our agenda today. And first, we must start by approving the minutes from August 23rd, 2023 agenda. Commissioners, I know those have been distributed in advance. Is there any questions or concerns about or changes needed to be made to those minutes? Hearing none, then I'll make the motion that we go ahead and approve the minutes from the August 23rd, 2023 agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those are approved by a vote of 5-0. All right, moving right on into the tariffs and new orders. Today, we have our first one, which is in file RD 2024-0006. This is in the matter of the Boomerang Wireless LLC N-Touch's wireless application seeking a partial relinquishment of a designation as an ETC provider on wireless basis for the low income only in a certain service area previously served by an underlying carrier, Verizon Wireless, and the removal of AT&T Mobility as an underlying carrier. So back on July 18th, N-Touch Wireless filed an application to relinquish part of its eligible telecommunications carrier's designation. They stated that they no longer use Verizon Wireless nor AT&T Mobility networks as carriers, and they wanted to relinquish the ETC status for its customers in those areas. On August 11th, the staff of the commission filed its recommendation. The staff concluded that N-Touch Wireless complies with all the requisite rules and statuses and statutes permitting the partial relinquishment of its ETC status, and no other applications to intervene, and no one requested a hearing, and no other recommendations have been filed. So the commission finds in this order that N-Touch Wireless has demonstrated compliance with the applicable rules and statutes, and this order grants N-Touch Wireless's application. And I recommend we approve this order version number 1. Commissioner Coleman.
I support the order.
Commissioner Holzman.
I'm in support of the order.
Commissioner Kolkmeyer.
I'm in support.
And Commissioner Hahn.
Also in support.
Great. All those in favor of supporting that order version 1, please say aye.
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 That is approved by a vote of 5-0. Next up, we have file number GA 2023-0374. This is in the matter of the application of Spire, Missouri, Inc., DBA Spire, for permission and approval and a certificate of convenience and necessity to construct, install, own, operate, maintain, and otherwise control and manage a natural gas distribution system to provide gas service in Johnson County, Missouri, as an expansion of its existing certificated area. So on April 27th, Spire filed an application with the commission seeking a certificate of convenience and necessity for natural gas distribution system to provide gas service in Johnson County, Missouri, and further expansion of its existing certificated area. And on August 14th, staff of the commission filed this recommendation that CCN should be granted, subject to certain conditions. Spire has not filed a response to staff's recommendation. And so commission finds Spire's provision of gas service to the area as described in the application as necessary and convenient for the public service. Therefore, the order we have in front of us will grant Spire a CCN to provide gas service within the area set out in the application. And I recommend we approve this order version number 1. Commissioner Coleman
I support the order.
and Commissioner Holzman
I support the order.
and Commissioner Kolkmeyer
I'm in support.
and Commissioner Hahn.
Also in support.
Great. All those in favor of supporting that order, please say aye.
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 That is approved by a vote of 5-0. And a final tariff and new order today is in file number EW 2023-0199. It's in the matter of the collaborative workshop for customer education and outreach regarding the introduction of time of use rates by Evergy Missouri Metro and Evergy Missouri West. The commission opened this working case to allow stakeholder collaboration with Evergy related to the details of the TOU rate implementation plan. And while the time for prior to October 1st has been ordered as a lead-in time for customer education and outreach, customer education and outreach will continue at a minimum through the initial year of implementation. While Evergy has participated in 2 stakeholder meetings, provided an agenda presentation, and voluntarily committed to provide certain information, the importance of the TOU rate implementation plan and the plan's execution requires that the commission stay apprised of Evergy's progress on a regular basis, and a more formal outline of the data requested will benefit the company and the commission staff. So this order outlines the additional information regarding the customer education and outreach, as well as other TOU implementation metrics to be reported to the commission, in addition to those voluntary commitments that Evergy has already made. And this order directs Evergy staff and any other interested stakeholder present a quarterly on-the-record presentation on customer education and outreach and other TOU implementation metrics in conjunction with stakeholder meeting. These additional reporting and presentation requirements strike a good balance between the amount of data that would be helpful for staff and interested parties to understand how the rollout is going, as well as not being any burdensome to the company, and also keeps in mind that only so much data can be reviewed by staff in one sitting time. So I believe we've struck a good balance here on what we would like to understand, and I would recommend that we approve this order, version number 4. Commissioner Coleman.
Mr. Chairman, there's been a pervasive spread of misinformation concerning the availability of customer choice as it pertains to Evergy's time of use rate program. So I think these reports will allow Evergy to keep the commission and other stakeholders informed about their efforts to educate and assist customers so that they can select the plans best for their needs. These reports will also provide data and real-time insights to help improve customer communications and customer service. Therefore, I support the order.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Holzman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's been some evolution on this order from where it started to where we are today, large in part thanks to Commissioner Hahn bringing up a couple points that we were able to work on to make this a little less burdensome for the company in terms of its response. I'm happy that we were able to get the vulnerable citizen population as sort of a breakout into the reporting, so we can have an idea and track those folks who are least likely to be able to communicate with from the company, and how that's going, and what kind of options and choices they're making, because I think that that was the section of the population that gave me the most concern for implementation time of use. I'm not sure that what would otherwise be 6 on the record and stakeholder meetings over the next, what will be, the rest of this year and into next year is too many or not. I'm willing to talk about how many we think is going to be appropriate. Certainly to the end of this year when the plan goes into effect fully, into next year, once the plan is already established and we've got good data, how often we need to have stakeholder meetings. One of my concerns with the stakeholder meetings is you typically have meetings like that when it's a two-way conversation and you have input from the stakeholders that could potentially affect an outcome. And here we're talking about reviewing circumstances of a decision that's already been made. So I'm not convinced that we need to have that much or that frequent dialogue I am supportive of the on the record because I want to hear from the company as to how the engagement's going and how the effectiveness of the policy is being implemented. But I'm open, and I know Commissioner Hahn and maybe Commissioner Kolkmeyer will have some discussion on the frequency at which we should be having the on the record. So I'm supportive of this order, but I'm open to discussion on that final piece of this part of it.
Great. Appreciate that, Commissioner Holzman. And yeah, I know that conversation has come up, and I know that as we get farther down the road, we can, if we don't need these, we can easily, cancel them and see how things are moving. But yeah, I understand those concerns, and I think those are very, very good points you brought up. Commissioner Kolkmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I totally agree with Commissioner Coleman that there's been a lot of misinformation about this time of use rate. There have been a lot of legislators that are confused of what's going on here, what some of their constituents are telling them, as well as the public. So I think somehow we need to work on this education piece, or the company needs to work on this education piece. I'm agreeing with Holzman that I think maybe we need to really sit and talk about the frequency of the on the records, as well as the stakeholder meetings. I'm not sure we need the stakeholder meetings or at maybe at all, let alone have 6 of them. So I would be, as far as on the record, be interested in one here fairly shortly in September, and then one at the end of the year, and then maybe after first quarter numbers come in. So sometime in April. That's probably what I would like to see the on the record. Hindsight's 2020, and in my opinion, the low differential rate should have been the default residential rate as opposed to the higher differential rate. So with that, I'm maybe supporting this order with some changes. So.
Great. Thank you very much, Commissioner. And then Commissioner Hahn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate getting to spend time discussing TOU today, whether that's in the order before us or the overall concept. I recently joined the commission, and one of the issues that immediately came to my attention was TOU, or time of use. It was surprising to me that the commission ordered in Evergy's last rate case that starting in about 1 month, October 1st, Evergy's customers would automatically be placed in a rate where their electricity price varies depending upon the time of day. Even more surprising is that the customers were automatically placed in the rate that has the greatest difference in price throughout the day than all the other residential rate options. And then even more confusing is that that's actually called the standard peak saver. That plan charges the highest differential for peak hours between 4 and 8 p.m. This disproportionately impacts families that work during the day, come home, cook dinner, do laundry, and generally get ready to do the same thing the next day. It's hard for a working family to shift those activities to after 8 p.m. or even after midnight when those rates may be the lowest. And by setting the high differential plan as the default, I feel like we've done those hardworking families an injustice. Even more, seniors should not be incentivized to turn down their ACs in the hottest parts of the day, or even with people with chronic medical conditions or small children. I really feel like the idea of TOU sounds good, but in practice could have some devastating impacts. Last week, when heat indexes hovered around 115 for much of the state, I heard of a senior citizen lady who was going to turn down her AC. She was fearful of her electric bill if she left it running. She didn't know that TOU doesn't take effect until October, but still the last thing that we as a commission want is for her to make that decision. We do not want fear of an electricity bill to have health impacts on our citizens that can't be reversed. Commission's workshop space here was opened by the commission so that the commission could receive updates on Evergy's customer education and outreach efforts relating to TOU. There were some concerns raised with those education efforts, but I do think it would be very difficult to educate the public on this topic. Not everyone has access to an online account or can simply adjust their Nest thermostat or is educated enough to understand these rate plans. They're confusing to me, and it's my job to know them. And I don't think we can blame that on Evergy. Just last week, I was in Kansas City and must have noticed close to a dozen Evergy billboards on TOU attempting to educate customers. I think there is an honest attempt being made to reach customers at every level. It's just a hard subject and a major departure from how people normally would view their electric bills. Evergy's presentation a few weeks ago further highlighted issues relating to TOU rates from their perspective. It also revealed there's still a lot of additional information to collect and analyze relating to what the best automatic rate would be for the majority of customers to be placed in. And that information was not available when the automatic rate was set. It also revealed two main things that customers are upset about, which are customers don't believe that they'll save money and they don't want to be mandated or told what to do. They want a standard rate, and I understand and share their concerns. After looking into this more at the commission level, I realized there's a significant customer concern relating to TOU coming into our agency as well. Just in the last month, Evergy's TOU has dominated the number of calls our commission call center has got by far. The themes of those calls were first, anger and frustration and lack of education. More recently, callers are also upset about the long call wait times with Evergy. I can imagine why call wait times are long. It's a complex subject where a company is trying to educate folks over the phone where they may not have access to internet about their choices. It's going to take time. I also want to thank and applaud our dedicated call center staff here at the commission for fielding those calls with patience and dedication to education. That's not an easy job to have. All this talk on TOU has also garnered attention far outside of Evergy's service territory from both political leaders, including Senate majority and minority floor leaders in the General Assembly, to major media outlets in every corner of the state. A few of the headlines from the many that have been launched read, time of use rates could mean higher electricity bills for millions in Missouri, or time of use rates could mean higher electric costs for Missourians. Or even new time-based Evergy rates could hurt Missouri wallets, and it's just getting hotter. And while the education efforts that Evergy is engaged in try to mitigate that, there's a narrative out there that's really hard to combat at this point. All of this tells me that Evergy customers, political leaders, and generally concerned citizens are not ready for Evergy to implement this TOU rate program. So I've spent time investigating what Evergy could do to change its time of rate use program. I found that two primary options exist for putting a filing before the commission for consideration. And like the General Assembly has to have a bill to make a policy change, the commission also needs a filing before us to reconsider TOU. One option is that Evergy could propose in the tariff it files in its next general rate case a different automatic or default structure for residential customer rates. This option would require Evergy to file a general rate case, which Evergy may not be ready to do prior to these rates going into effect. Changes from general rate cases typically take 11 months or so after filing to become effective by law. The commission could consider, if requested, potentially speeding up the timeline by ordering interim tariffs subject to refund based on the results of the general rate case process. And even if that occurs, it's highly unlikely any of it would be in effect by October 1st, the date the rate plans start taking effect. Another option, potentially more expeditious than the first, is that Evergy could make a revised tariff filing with the commission that revises the automatic or default TOU rate that such customers would automatically be placed into the more traditional or standard rate. I think this is currently called the Peak Reward Saver and has also been referred to as the low differential plan. I'm not suggesting that Evergy change the rates the commission ordered in its last rate case. What I'm suggesting is that Evergy could file with the commission a revised tariff that modifies the structure of its residential TOU rates to automatically place customers into the more traditional rates that customers are more familiar with for the commission's consideration. Customers would still have the option to choose one of Evergy's other TOU rates, but defaulting or automatically placing customers into the traditional rate addresses many of the concerns from customers that I have heard. Customers are concerned. The General Assembly is concerned. I'm concerned, and I wanted to bring this forth for discussion with my fellow commissioners who may share some of these concerns or also want to explore options. With regard to the order before us today, it was placed on agenda as a working case, not necessarily a contested case. The commission does have general investigatory authority, which is typically what underlies a working case. It's possible that one could argue that an order requires too much or is too burdensome to go beyond the commission's general investigatory authority in a working case. But the commission does have otherwise broad authority. The courts have traditionally construed the commission's investigatory authority as quite broad. So this order does require the reporting of information either on a monthly or quarterly basis, and also requires 6 on-the-record presentations and 6 stakeholder meetings, or I think now 5 and 5 under the new version. I think it's important to be informed of the outcomes and impacts of the decisions the commission makes. For that reason, I can support asking for certain data reporting. On the other hand, I think requiring Evergy to hold stakeholder meetings may not be a great use of time. My guess is that the public will come to these meetings, be upset over TOU, and Evergy may not have any levers to pull to implement change other than filing a rate case. Which brings me to my next point. Evergy may file a rate case, and both the commission and Evergy could be holding local public hearings at the same time. It seems like the local public hearings in the rate case would be sufficient for us to continue to hear stakeholder feedback about TOU if that is the intent of having these in the order. On the subject of the 5 on the record presentations, the 1 this year and 4 next year, I'm not immovable in my position, but I do believe that 6 or 5 is excessive. I'm closer to the position of 1 on the record presentation this year and 1 next year, especially knowing that if the commission desires, we can always order more beyond what is included in this specific order. I'd be happy to further discuss a compromise if other commissioners are open to that. I know I've said a lot today, so I just look forward to continuing the conversation here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Appreciate your comments as always. So the issue before us here today really kind of seems down to, do you want to have 6 scheduled and cancel them if you don't need them, or do you want to pare it down to a smaller number and then add them if you want more? To me, it's but really it's just a viewpoint of how you want to proceed. So my default is schedule them. If you don't need them, cancel them. But if that causes concern and you guys wanted to do 3, you have 1 this fall and 2 in the beginning of the year into spring, and then readjust. I do not mind doing that. It's just which way do you want to proceed? Order them, cancel them if you don't need them, or pare them back and add them if you want more. So Commissioner Kolkmeyer, Commissioner Holzman, I know you guys had expressed paring them down, or where would you guys be?
Let's hear from Commissioner Coleman, and I'd be happy to go after her.
Sure.
Well, I agree that it's fine to order and reduce meetings as needed. If that's as clear as mud.
And I'm on the other side of that, where I think we have less and then ask for if we need to. So I do think that we should probably have at least one stakeholder meeting. 5 or 6 is obviously redundant, but if we wanted to do one on the record and one stakeholder meeting before the end of this year, especially in the light of Commissioner Hahn's comments just now, which could, potentially chart a different course for the future, I suppose. I was the one no vote on time of use, and I stated my public reasons for that no vote at the time. I was concerned about getting rid of the cold weather subsidy for the all-electric heat customers. I was concerned about the net metering not being there, and I was concerned about the vulnerable population that still has magnetic thermostats that would have to get up every day and move those manually at 4 o'clock and then move them back at 8. I thought that was a pretty significant burden. And like Commissioner Kolkmeyer said earlier, hindsight's 2020. Would this have been an easier transition if we would have started out the customer base in the low differential and allowed them to opt in to the high differential? I think that that's clear now from the misinformation that's been out there, because I do take issue with the policy implications of what Evergy presented. I mean, they presented facts that say 90% of customers based on last year's numbers would save money. 10% would not save money. That 10% happens to be in the all-electric heat category, which again is a concern. So I know that the facts are not lining up with the optics, and that in politics, perception rules supreme. And we have to acknowledge that, and we have to work within the reality that is in front of us. And I think that if we can discuss a future where a low differential, as Commissioner Hahn has suggested, is a possibility. I know we cannot unilaterally do that as a commission, but it's possible, according to her comments, that it could revisit the subject. And I think that we should look at that. As far as this one goes, my recommendation is 1 on the record this year, 1 stakeholder meeting this year, and then 2 on the records next year, and no stakeholders next year unless we need them. That's my suggestion for this order.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Holzman. Commissioner Kolkmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The letter that was sent to the legislators, the Senate, the senators and the House members, was very well written, very thoughtful, had a lot of good examples in it. It was really lengthy, but it was packed full of information. The problem is the public is not going to read that. Probably very few legislators are going to read it word for word all the way through and comprehend everything that was in there, i.e. that we take deep dives into this stuff. But it was very well written, and I don't know how we take that and put that to the public. So I just want to give kudos to you and your staff for drafting that letter. And I'm not sure that it has squelched or calmed down any of the questions and misinformation that's out there. A lot of information that's out there is what I'm hearing is we, the PSC, mandated and put these people in this rate, and they're stuck there for life. And as all of us know, that's totally wrong. And one of the reasons I voted for this was it gave people choice, that they could move, and this is one of the first times ever that anybody would have a choice on what rate what they wanted. Before, they were the one, or there's one class, you're residential, so you're put in there. So anyway, I'm not sure a stakeholder meeting at this point is going to do anything, so I'm probably leaning at not having any. Although I would support having one. On the record, the three that Commissioner Holzman just proposed, I would be in support of. One now or in September, one after the first of the year, so we have a quarter's worth of information, and then maybe one in April after the first quarter. 3 months of information. So anyway, that's kind of where I am.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Kolkmeyer. And I guess I'm circle back to Commissioner Hahn. It looks like we have some general consensus on one stakeholder and three of the other. What are your thoughts on that?
I just appreciate the dialogue today to be able to get to a compromise, because I do think that we all want the information, but we want it to be, on a timeline that is not too heavy-handed up front, but knowing that we can continue to get more information and more on the records in the future. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for working toward the compromise, and I really appreciate the Commissioner Kolkmeyer and Commissioner Holzman to get to this place. And I'd be happy to join the commission in one stakeholder meeting and 3 on the records. So if that is the position, then I'd be happy to support the order.
Well, it sounds, Judge, it sounds to me like we have agreement, majority there to make those changes in the draft order there.
Yes, Chairman. If we could, however, nail down the months of the meetings, the version 4 puts the 2023 meeting in November, with the scheduling details to be worked out later. But for the months, we're currently looking at November, and then in the order would be March and June. I've heard September, February, and April, and I've also heard November, March, and June.
I don't think we need to have an on the record before. We just had one and got a glimpse of the preliminary data. Until it goes into effect and we actually see, the results of this tariff, I think that we should wait just a little bit. So maybe November probably is a good time to have that first month of October. What is the date where this tariff actually is live?
It's 2 different dates for, I don't remember which company, but for Evergy Metro, it's October 1st, and for Evergy West, it is November 1st.
Okay, so we would at least have 30 days of one of the 2 in November. So if we do one in November,
I would definitely support that. My thought process in September is to get one prior to it going live.
well, I think we're still requesting reports. And on the record is a slightly enhanced report.
Yes.
Where we can have a 2-way dialogue. So I think we're still going to get data and feedback, prior to this on the record. Is that, Christy, is that correct? That we'll get some reports before that? Yeah. So,
okay.
So we'll have some data before we actually do on the record.
Okay. Then I was thinking,
well, we certainly, I would be in favor of doing the first on the record in January. If we do one in November, we're going to get October's numbers. Then we're going to have November and December's data. So if we do one middle to end of January, we'll get almost 2.5 months worth of data then. And then if we did one, say April, we would get the whole first quarter status. Those 3 meetings would cover 1 month, 2.5 months, 3 months.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Chairman, I'm seeing 3 nods at the table. I believe that gives me the direction for
Would we,
version 4 as amended as far as the quarterly meetings, or as far as the on-the-record meetings.
Yeah, Judge, that's good. Get those nailed down. I'm comfortable with that as well. So you can make those changes, and we can go ahead and I can make the motion then that we would approve the order that is in front of us. We've been discussing EW 2023-0119. This would be order version number 5.
I've been instructed that the way the commission operates, this will be version 4 as amended.
Okay, thank you, Judge. You are correct there. So okay, I will amend that statement then and move that we would approve this order version number 4 as amended. I believe we have discussed this. So let's go ahead, and all those in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
All right. Sounds like you got a 5-0 there, Judge. That is good. All right. So appreciate the conversation. I think the public is very served the more that we can kind of air out some of our thoughts and how we come to these decisions and the things that's going on. I think it always ends up with a better work product. So I appreciate everyone's discussions there. So that does bring us to the end of tariffs and new orders. We will move. We had scheduled PSC history, and it was my job to do that. And I did do that for last week, and I have no idea where I put my notes. So going to skip that for this week until I can find my notes on the PSC history. So let's just hop right into scheduling. Looks like today, immediately following, Commissioner Coleman is going to help us here with the USB meeting. That'll be right after the agenda here. You should have received notice there is a special agenda that has been scheduled for tomorrow. That is in case EC 2024-0015 with Allegri versus Energy or Evergy Company. It's a complaint case. That special agenda will be tomorrow at, I'm pulling up my schedule here. 1 second. At noon, it looks like, and that will be a noon agenda that is there. Then we have Thursday, September 7th. We have our agenda at 10:15. We have the National Association of Water Companies is having their annual meeting that runs between the 11th and the 13th of September. Thursday, September 14th, we have agenda at 10:15. That same day, there's an evidentiary hearing on September 14th at case number WO 2024-0036. That's the petition for an interim receiver and for an order directing the general counsel to petition the circuit court for the appointment of a receiver for Misty Waterworks, and that will be in room 310 at 1 p.m. Then on Thursday, the 21st of September, we have agenda at 10:15 a.m. Then on the 27th, Wednesday, the 27th of September, we have agenda at 10:15 a.m. And then on Wednesday, October 4th, we have agenda at 10:15 a.m. And I believe that concludes the scheduling. Is there any other comments or questions or concerns about the schedule?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to mention that although the call-in number is the same for the USB meeting, there's a different access code. Just want to put folks on notice about that.
We appreciate that, because I would have been one person that would have been going, why isn't this working? So thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome, Mr. Chairman.
All right, seeing no further business before the Public Service Commission, we'll move that we stand adjourned. Today's agenda hearing, and be following with the USB meeting. And you heard the directions for those that need to hang up and call back in. But thank you, commissioners. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It's over here now.